The San Francisco 49ers are standing at one of the most fascinating crossroads of the Kyle Shanahan era. For years, this organization built a reputation for chasing big-name veterans and stacking a roster loaded with established talent. It worked. The 49ers were contenders. They were feared. They were a team nobody wanted to face in January. But the NFL moves fast, and rosters age even faster. Now San Francisco is entering a new phase, one that mixes a youth movement with carefully chosen veteran reinforcements as the franchise attempts to extend its championship window. Last offseason was the first real signal that change was coming. Instead of aggressively signing high-priced free agents, the 49ers shifted course. Several veteran players were allowed to walk, others were moved off the roster, and the front office leaned heavily on the NFL draft. It was a strategic pivot designed to inject youth into a roster that had grown older at several key positions. The message from the organization was clear. The next version of the 49ers would have to be younger, faster, and more financially flexible. That decision immediately showed up on the field. The 49ers didn't just draft players, they played them. Rookie defenders Michael Williams, Alfred Collins, Upton Stout, and C.J. West all saw meaningful snaps early in their careers. When injuries struck, players like Marquez Sigel and Connor Colby were called up and forced into action. For many teams, that kind of scenario exposes depth issues. For San Francisco, it revealed something more promising, a pipeline of young talent capable of handling real NFL responsibility. The impact didn't stop with the rookie class. Several players from the 2024 draft class stepped into starting roles when healthy. Wide receiver Ricky Pearsall became an important offensive contributor. Renardo Green emerged in the secondary. Dominic Pooney provided stability along the offensive line. Malik Mustafa and Tatum Bethune showed flashes that suggest the defense may have quietly found long-term pieces. Meanwhile, the previous year's draft produced Jair Brown and D. Winters, both of whom essentially became starters when they were on the field. What this means for the 49ers is simple but significant. The roster is quietly transitioning from the veteran-heavy group that dominated the NFC earlier in the decade into a younger foundation built through the draft. But transitions are never smooth in the NFL. A team that still has championship aspirations can't rely solely on development. It needs experience, leadership, and proven production. That's why the upcoming offseason is shaping up to be a balancing act between youth and carefully selected veterans. The free agency market presents opportunities, but also difficult decisions. Some of the biggest names available simply don't align with the direction the 49ers are heading. Players like Trey Hendrickson, Alec Pierce, or Tyler Linderbaum are talented, but their contracts could be massive. San Francisco's front office understands that locking into long-term deals for expensive veterans could undo the financial flexibility they've been trying to rebuild. Instead, the more realistic strategy may involve targeted veteran additions. At wide receiver, for example, Romeo Dew has emerged as a name connected to the team. Dew isn't necessarily the flashiest option on the market, but he fits a critical need. The 49ers lost offensive firepower in recent seasons, and adding a reliable wideout who can stretch the field and complement the existing receiving group would help restore balance to the passing game. Edge rusher is another position under serious evaluation. For a brief moment, it looked like the 49ers might pursue one of the league's premier pass rushers when rumors swirled around a potential deal for Max Crosby. But the price tag quickly eliminated that possibility. The Baltimore Ravens ultimately secured Crosby in a blockbuster trade that included 2 first-round picks, a level of investment San Francisco simply couldn't justify during a roster transition. That development forced the 49ers to pivot toward more realistic options. One of the most intriguing possibilities is Trey Hendrickson. The Cincinnati pass rusher has been one of the league's most productive defenders over the past several seasons, and unlike Crosby, acquiring him would not require surrendering valuable draft capital. The challenge, of course, is financial. Hendrickson is expected to command a contract that could exceed $100 million across 3 years, and several teams will likely compete for his services. If the bidding becomes too aggressive, the 49ers may instead look for value signings on shorter deals. Veterans like Khalil Mack or Bradley Chubb could make sense in rotational roles, providing experience and pass rush ability without requiring long-term commitments. These types of signings would allow San Francisco to remain competitive while continuing to build through the draft. Defensive tackle is another position where the market is filled with experienced players nearing the end of their prime. Names like John Franklin Myers, DJ Reader, Draymond Jones, Sheldon Rankins, and David Onyemata are all available, but most of them are approaching or already past the age of 30. For a team trying to get younger, committing major money at that position would require serious internal debate. The secondary presents a slightly different scenario. While the 49ers have several young defensive backs, consistency has been an issue. A veteran presence could stabilize the group, and safety Kevin Byard stands out as a potential short-term solution. Byard has built a reputation as one of the league's most intelligent and disciplined defensive backs. Even if he's no longer in his absolute prime, his leadership and experience could help guide a young secondary that is still finding its identity. Along the offensive line, the situation is equally important. Spencer Burford's inconsistent performance at left guard created instability in front of the quarterback, and that's a problem the 49ers can't ignore. One possible solution could be veteran guard Isaac Sumalo, who has quietly been one of the more dependable interior linemen in the league. Signing a player like Sumalo would provide immediate reliability without the massive price tag associated with younger stars like Zion Johnson. In the middle of all these roster decisions, the 49ers are also looking toward the future through scouting and the draft process. Meetings with prospects such as versatile defensive back Shamari Rouser show that the organization is actively evaluating late-round and developmental talent. These are the types of players who often become critical contributors 2 or 3 years down the line. If you're enjoying this deep dive into the future of the 49ers, make sure to subscribe to the channel and stay locked in for more detailed NFL breakdowns like this one. We analyze every move, every rumor, and every roster decision that shapes the league. The draft itself remains the centerpiece of the 49ers' rebuilding strategy. San Francisco currently holds 7 draft picks, and those selections represent the lifeblood of the franchise's next phase. The front office understands that sustained success in today's NFL depends on consistently drafting impact players who can contribute on rookie contracts. To understand why this philosophy matters so much, you only need to look back at one defining moment in franchise history: the 2019 NFL Draft. That class didn't just produce good players. It built the foundation of the Shanahan-era 49ers. With the second overall pick, San Francisco selected Nick Bosa. That decision instantly transformed the defense. Bosa became the centerpiece of the pass rush and one of the most disruptive edge defenders in football. Opposing offenses built entire game plans around slowing him down. Double teams, chip blocks, quick passes. Nothing completely solved the problem Bosa created. Later in that same draft, the 49ers added Deebo Samuel, one of the most unique offensive weapons of the modern NFL era. Samuel's hybrid role as both receiver and running back redefined the Shanahan offense. Defenses struggled to adjust to a player who could line up anywhere and punish defenders after the catch. That draft also produced linebacker Dre Greenlaw, who formed an elite partnership with Fred Warner. For several seasons, that linebacker duo controlled the middle of the field and anchored the defense. Together, they embodied the physical identity the 49ers wanted to establish. But time eventually changes every roster. Samuel has moved on. Greenlaw left in free agency. Injuries have impacted key players. And now, years later, Nick Bosa stands as one of the last remaining pillars from that legendary draft class. That reality perfectly illustrates why the 49ers are once again prioritizing youth. Draft classes define eras in the NFL. The 2019 class built a contender. The upcoming drafts will determine whether the 49ers can build the next one. As the offseason unfolds, the strategy appears clear. San Francisco will likely avoid massive spending sprees. Instead, they'll continue drafting aggressively, develop young talent, and fill critical gaps with experienced veterans on short-term deals. It's a methodical approach, but one designed for long-term sustainability. The big question now is whether that approach can deliver another championship run before the current core ages out of its prime. The NFC is evolving. Rival teams are getting younger and faster. The margin for error is shrinking. For the 49ers, the challenge isn't just replacing players. It's recreating the formula that once made them dominant: elite drafting, smart roster management, and a system that maximizes every piece of talent. If they succeed, the next era of San Francisco football could be just as dangerous as the last. And if you want more deep NFL analysis, roster breakdowns, and insider-level discussions about the biggest storylines in football, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss the next video.